Welcome, my amazing listeners. Today we're about to take a journey into one of the most chilling mysteries in recent history. I hope you're ready, because this isn't your typical story. This is the kind of case that leaves families haunted and communities in fear, where answers remain as elusive as the person responsible. We'll be heading to the dark, isolated shores of Long Island, where a serial killer has hunted their prey with such precision that even to this day, their identity remains unknown. Along the way, I'll share with you the commonly accepted theories about who this killer might be, but that's not all. Unlike every other documentary, YouTube video or article, I'm going to share my very own profile. A profile developed from extensive research, psychological analysis, and a bold and disturbing attempt to step into the killer's shoes. So, buckle in, keep an open mind, and remember, some secrets are hidden right in plain sight. Let's begin. Allow me, if you will, to take you on a trip to Long Island, New York. Now, when most people think of Long Island, they picture sunny beaches, expensive houses, orange people, really bad hairdos, and some very questionable pizza. But here's another side to this place, a much darker side that is far from glamorous. Let me introduce you to Gilgo Beach. It's this isolated stretch, part marshland, part coastline, tucked away from the usual tourist spots. It's quiet, kind of forgotten, and if you didn't know the place, you might even call it peaceful. Back in 2010, Gilgo Beach became the centre of one of the most unsettling mysteries New York has ever seen. And it all started with one phone call.
State Police, Trooper Fry. State Police.
Yeah, there's somebody after me.
I'm sorry?
There's somebody after me.
Where are you?
There's somebody after me.
Okay, where are you?
There's somebody after me.
Where are you, ma'am?
I don't know.
Are you driving right now?
No, I'm inside the house.
I'm sorry?
I'm inside the house.
What house?
I don't know. Can you trace where I am?
I'm sorry?
Can you trace where I am?
No, I can't. What's your callback number you're calling from?
Huh?
What phone number are you calling from?
Somebody's after me. Please.
Are you in Suffolk County or Nassau County?
I'm in Long Island.
Where on Long Island are you?
No. 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 No, stop, no.
Where in Long Island are you? In Suffolk County? Nassau County?
Huh? Why? Why you call me by my name? Why?
County, you on the line?
Stop. Please. Stop it, please. Please stop. Please. Can you shut the door?
No, time to go.
Please. Please. Please.
Go that way, please. Come on, let's go. Come on, we're all going to sex. Come on, go outside. All of us. Come on. I'll pull over outside. Come on.
No, please.
Come on. Please, come on.
Please.
Come on.
Why?
Just come on. I'll go upstairs. You leave. I'm just going upstairs. I'm going to go upstairs. You leave. I'm going to go upstairs. Okay? You leave. Please. Please. Get there. My phone. What's the matter? Are you okay?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do to me? Why?
Huh? Well, I don't know, but it was transferred to me.
Why?
No, no.
What are you going to kill me? Kill me? Why are you going to
Hey, stop it now, no, no.
You freaking down. Come on.
I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Let's go back to Manhattan. We're in Long Island. We're out near the water.
Please, stop.
Please, Mike. Brother, come on.
No, stop it, please.
So here's what went down. Back in May 2010, Shannon Gilbert, a 24-year-old woman, came out to Long Island looking for a job. She was working as an escort and had just finished up with a client in Oak Beach. Now, if you don't know Oak Beach, it's this small, quiet neighbourhood near Gilgo Beach. We're talking about an area where people know each other, but it's also isolated. One of those places where things can, and often do, go unnoticed. Something happened that night, and no one's entirely sure what it was. Shannon, scared out of her mind, calls 911 and tells them someone is after her. She doesn't give much more detail, but you can hear the fear in her voice. You can hear voices in the background saying they should go outside, but she's refusing. She's adamant that somebody's chasing her. Had she seen somebody outside? Maybe someone she'd met in the past, maybe someone she met as a client. We'll never know. After that 911 call, Shannon disappears. And as police start searching the area, they aren't expecting anything more than a missing persons case. But a few months later, in December, they make a discovery that nobody was prepared for. During a routine search for Shannon, they find, well, not Shannon, but 4 other women. Their remains are wrapped in burlap sacks, hidden along the same stretch of Gilgo Beach. The victims share more than just a location. They all had similar backgrounds. They all worked as escorts. And they all went missing over a span of a few years. It's as if they've been left there, waiting to be found. This discovery changed everything. What started as a search for one missing woman had turned into something far bigger, far darker. Police realised they weren't just looking for Shannon Gilbert, they were dealing with a serial killer, and not just any serial killer. A serial killer who knows how to stay hidden, who understands the area, and had probably been watching it for years, biding their time. In the months that followed, the discoveries didn't stop. More remains were found scattered along the coastline, not just at Gilgo Beach, but in nearby areas, hidden among the marshes and thick underbrush of Long Island. Some were only partial bodies, bones, skulls, and other fragments that gave the investigators just enough to confirm they were dealing with more than one victim, but not enough to piece together exactly who or how they had died. These remains were eventually linked to at least 10 to 16 victims. All had similar stories. Most of them were young women working as escorts or in similar jobs. Many had vanished quietly without anyone even knowing they were gone, well, until now. The killer had been careful, leaving just enough to be found, but not enough to give away who they were. And despite the evidence, despite the years of investigation, the identity of the Long Island serial killer remains unknown. Alright, so here's where things get interesting. Over the years, countless theories have sprung up to explain who might be behind these murders, but none of them have led to any solid answers. Let's go through some of the most talked about theories, the ones investigators, locals and armchair detectives just can't seem to let go of. Theory 1. The idea that someone on the inside might be involved. Some believe that someone within law enforcement or someone closely connected to it could be behind the murders, or at least covering them up. And here's where it gets even sketchier. James Burke, the former Suffolk County Police Chief, led the investigation for years, and during that time he blocked the FBI from joining the case. Burke was later sent to prison for corruption, so his involvement, or at least his odd behaviour, has made a lot of people suspicious. I mean, why keep the feds out? They surely have far more resources. And why act so defensively? Unless there was something he wanted to hide. Then there's Theory 2, which brings us to a local guy named Dr. Peter Hackett. Hackett was a resident of Oak Beach, close to where Shannon disappeared, and according to Shannon's family, he contacted them shortly after she went missing. He claimed he'd helped Shannon that night, but later denied even making the phone call. So what is going on here? Hackett had a reputation for unusual behaviour in the community, and some neighbours even suggested that he had a habit of inserting himself into strange situations. It's a theory that's divided people. Was Hackett just an eccentric with no real connection, or could he actually have something to do with it? Then there's the possibility of a link to other unsolved cases. Some think the Long Island serial killer might be connected to a series of murders in nearby Manorville, where human remains have been found since the early 2000s. Manorville is only about 20 miles away from Gilgo Beach, and some of the Manorville victims were dismembered in similar ways. It makes you wonder, is it possible that this killer is just operating in different spots, with Gilgo Beach being one of his dumping grounds? And then there's the theory that gets most people's attention. The idea of multiple killers. This one suggests that it might not be the work of a single individual, but rather multiple people using the same stretch of coastline as hidden dumping ground. People point out that the method of disposal varies. Some bodies were wrapped in burlap, others left more exposed. And then there's the timeline. These murders weren't all back to back, they happened over years with gaps in between them. Could two or more killers have used Gilgo Beach as their private graveyard? And finally, there's the powerful client theory. Some of the victims were sex workers, and theories suggest that maybe a high-profile client or a group of clients wanted to keep certain details quiet. This one is hard to prove, obviously, but it does explain why no strong leads have emerged and why there's a feeling that people are holding back. If someone with influence wanted to keep their crimes buried, they'd certainly have the means to do so. Each one of these theories has elements that make sense, but there's no solid evidence linking any of them directly to the killer. And that's the maddening thing. Each theory could be right, or they could be all dead wrong. The only thing we know for certain is the killer, or killers, are still out there. So you've heard the usual theories. Now it's time for me to take you down a different path. I've researched, analysed patterns and built a profile that goes beyond these theories. Here is who I think we're dealing with step by step. First off, it's the victims. The victims weren't chosen at random. There's a clear pattern, almost a checklist the killer followed. Most of the victims were petite, young, with brown or blonde hair, weighing between 90 to 120 pounds and no more than 5'4" in height. They all advertised services online, often through Craigslist and Backpage, providing anonymous access. Many led transient lifestyles, moving between hotels or rentals with few social ties. Vulnerable, isolated, the perfect targets. Now let's look at the killer's chosen dumping ground, Gilgo Beach and its affluent surroundings. This area, with incomes averaging around £100,000 a year, values privacy. People keep to themselves. Gilgo Beach, itself quiet, isolated, gives the killer everything needed for discretion. This familiarity with the area suggests he's local, blending into a community where residents prize privacy and discretion. Experts tell us that organised killers, especially those who can wait years, are often male, meticulous, and thrive on control. For these killers, the act is just one part of it. The planning, the anticipation, these are essential. The patience suggests a killer with intense self-control, thriving on the psychological game where each phase from selecting to stalking to acting is ritualistic. And when it comes to choosing his victims, this killer likely uses a calculated method, a process that's deliberate, drawn out, and designed for control at every stage. This isn't someone who acts on impulse. It starts online, on sites like Craigslist and Backpage, where he searches for the perfect fit, petite women with a certain look, and often leading isolated, transient lives. The first encounter isn't about intimacy, it's about assessment. He'll arrange a non-sexual meeting to gauge their vulnerability, almost like a job interview. If they meet his standards, he might arrange a second interview. He's not in a rush, he's ensuring every piece fits. For him, each interaction is a test, a way to observe his target up close and decide if they are the chosen one. Once he's made that decision, he moves to the final stage, reconnaissance. During this encounter, he learns her routine, mapping out her life, Where does she live? Who does she see? Does she have close friends, family? He's studying her habits, looking for gaps in her day-to-day where he can strike unnoticed. This isn't stalking for the thrill, it's stalking as part of his plan. Cold, calculated, structured. After days, maybe even weeks of watching, he strikes at the perfect moment, with everything in place. For him, it's about the control, the precision of every step, creating what he considers the perfect crime, leaving no trace. The patience, the preparation of it all points to a killer who is methodical and deeply confident in his ability to remain invisible. For some killers, committing the act isn't enough. They need to relive it. Often this means keeping a trophy, but in this case, Gilgo Beach itself could be, well, the trophy cabinet. A place he returns to, his private trophy room, each visit a reminder of control, mastery. Almost as if the beach itself is a testament to his ability and his secrets. So here's who I believe we are likely dealing with. A male in his late 30s to early 50s, living within 20 miles of Gilgo Beach. He's in a well-paid management or professional role, someone who values structure, discipline, and control both in his work and personal life. He's meticulous and detail-orientated, likely someone who prefers routine and predictability, which allows him to live comfortably without drawing suspicion. This is a man who fits seamlessly into his community. He doesn't need a mask. To his neighbours and colleagues, he's just another successful professional in a world that values privacy and independence. Yet, under that controlled exterior, he harbours a need for absolute dominance. A drive that goes far beyond typical ambition. It's possible he's involved in hobbies that reflect his patience and precision, perhaps activities that require careful planning and focus like fishing, woodworking, or even something as technical as model crafting. Judging from criminology, he likely avoids close relationship. He's not the type to form strong bonds, instead keeping acquaintances at a comfortable distance. Family members, if he has them, might seem as stable and reserved, even polite and detached. Someone who's always has his personal life in order. But this is someone who values secrets, who takes pleasure in knowing he can maintain total control over every part of his life, especially the parts no one can see. But that is not all. Given his methodical planning and research, he's probably comfortable with technology. This isn't just someone searching Craigslist for potential victims. He knows how to navigate the internet in ways that keeps him hidden, using anonymous accounts, possibly understanding privacy settings and digital trails well enough to avoid leaving any trace. And then there's his ability to disappear for short periods. He might go missing for a few hours in an evening, just enough to set up the encounters, observe victims, and follow their routines. These disappearances are calculated, leaving little room for error. He plans meticulously, arranging alibis if needed, and ensuring his movements blend in with his ordinary life. And finally, there's his trophy. For killers like this, the act itself isn't enough. They need a way to relive it, to keep that feeling of power alive. in this case Gilgo Beach itself, could be that trophy, a place he returns to reliving his control over each and every moment. Feeling the thrill that comes from holding his secrets right under the community's noses. So the question is, do you know anyone who fits that description? A man who values control, precision and secrecy. A local professional to Gilgo Beach, disciplined, reserved, who might occasionally disappear just long enough to do what he does best, unseen. If someone comes to mind, maybe it's time to pass their details on to the authorities. Or just avoid them at all costs. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of the most unsettling profiles I've ever created. Keep your eyes open, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the darkest secrets are hiding in plain sight. Until next time, take care.